I left my dog alone for like 7 hours yesterday. Not 6 hours. Bless you. More like, okay, not 7. It was more like 4 hours. But I left my dog alone for 4 hours yesterday. And when I left, I put it on a YouTube channel that has dog TV. And the commercial that came up was for that Lego movie 2, the song that this song's gonna get stuck in your head. And I left, and it got stuck. And when I came back, that ad was still playing. So for 4 hours, my dog was listening to this song's gonna get stuck in your head.
It really did get stuck in his head.
It really did, and I feel like he might have tried to murder me last night.
So fuck yes.
Justified.
Welcome to After the Hype. With me, your host is always Brian Dressel. I'm leaving that in. With me, as always, is Jonathan Hardesty.
Yo.
Chewie Darso.
Hi.
And Emily Blake.
Yo!
Special guest this week, we have Mr. Elliot Campos.
Hey.
Wow, we need to get you a lot louder. We need to get you closer.
Hey.
There you are. Elliot, I apologize. Apparently, every time I bring you on for the worst movies.
Yeah, it's a real honor.
Yeah, even for one of our upcoming battle episodes, I asked a friend of the show, Elvis, to be on, and he went, why don't you ask Elliot? That's more his bag.
Wow.
One of the early ones I did was X-Men The Last Stand versus X-Men Origins Wolverine. So I had to double feature
Jesus Christ.
that jamboree.
It truly was a jamboree.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
Yeah. Definitely have some scars from that one. But it really made me appreciate literally every other movie I watched after that a lot more.
There's the box blurb right there.
Yeah, we do good things over here. We show you
This
movies
movie
so bad that
made
you
me
think other movies look good.
appreciate other movies.
Well, the movie today made me appreciate every other movie in the Conjuring franchise, that's for sure. Today we're talking about The Nun.
That would have been a great way to open
Hey, we'll
that
have
movie.
none of that.
Damn it.
But before we talk about The Nun, we should do a Where Have You Been Doing? I can go first. We actually kind of talked about it in between episodes, which was interesting. I watched the show Happy. It was a sci-fi show. It stars Chris Maloney. Is that how you pronounce it? I would say it wrong. Chris Maloney and Patton Oswalt and a number of other people. For those of you who have not noticed it, it is written by Grant Morrison, who I love. And it is about a guy whose daughter gets kidnapped by a crazed Santa, and she sends her imaginary friend out for her dad to come save her. And her imaginary friend is a horse unicorn thing voiced by Patton Oswalt. And it's just a weird show. Like, it's billed as a comedy, but it's not very funny. Like, there's maybe 2 or 3 scenes over all 8 episodes that I actually laughed out loud at. And the rest of it's this kind of like dark comedy of like, oh, I can see how this horrifically awful thing is being played for laughs, but I'm not laughing. But the story itself was actually really engaging and fun, and I really like the characters, and I plowed through the whole thing, and I recommend it. I really enjoyed it. But people who tell me it's hysterical, I'm like, there's something wrong with you. Like, there's nothing funny about some of the stuff that happens in the show. Doesn't mean it's a bad show, just not one that I look to brighten my day by any stretch of the imagination. Still far more uplifting than Jim and Andy from last week, so at least I'm doing slightly better this week.
Yeah, step up a little bit.
John, what about you?
So I bought Jandy for Christmas a board game called Ticket to Ride Europe.
Whoa.
And so we tested it out, and it was really fun. I'd heard of Ticket to Ride before, but I'd never played it. And
That's a popular game, that one.
yeah, and I can see why. It was really fun, even though I lost by quite a bit, but, that's okay.
Sure.
It was still
Sounds
really
like it.
It was still really fun, and it was interesting to play that game because it looked complicated. Like when you first open all the stuff, there's all these pieces and rules, but playing it was kind of simple, and it kind of made me realize that there's so much more out there that I haven't done yet in the tabletop world that I would like to, but that I've been daunted from because it seems complicated. It's a weird thing to kind of approach.
Sure.
So, I mean, I definitely want to get into more of these ones that people have been talking about now.
Yeah, there's some really amazing board games out there. Board game culture really kind of took off again, like about 10 years ago, maybe. And
Yeah.
it's still just kind of high up there.
Yeah.
Jerry, what about you?
Well, I've done a few things lately, but I'll talk about how you had me watch Gangs of New York.
Ooh.
I've never seen this movie before then, because it came out during a period of time when I was just kind of anti-big Hollywood productions. At the same time, I never saw Gladiator or what any of those.
It was the
movies
early
at that
2000s of throw hundreds of millions at
where
every
I just
movie.
didn't watch any of those movies. And, I mean, I did enjoy it. I got angry a lot because I was just like, why are you fighting? What are you all fighting about? And Brian would be like, they're fighting for territory. I'm like, territory of what? The slums? Like, this is all stupid. They're all being dumb. They're all just being hyper violent and dumb.
How was the walking in the movie?
Weird, actually. Daniel Day-Lewis literally walked like he was on stilts. And every time I looked at him, I'm like, why are you doing that? It's like,
I told you why.
Yeah, to make himself look taller.
He walks like he's a giant.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
And he wore straight pants, which did elongate his legs as well, which also made him look like he was on
With a really
stilts.
high crotch inseam to make his legs look even longer.
I mean, everything. I mean, it's actually a fantastically beautiful, technically very well-made movie. I loved their underground bar where they're being served drinks is underneath a tree root system. Like, it was really gothic in a way and just interesting.
Emily, what about you?
As I mentioned last week, I have been watching a lot of horror movies in preparation for a pitch that I've got coming up. And of all the movies I watched, which is like 10 or like a million, somewhere in there,
Any number.
by far the scariest was relevant to today because it was The Conjuring. The Conjuring. I watched this movie. I watched The Nun first before I watched The Conjuring. So I was like, oh yeah, that guy. But
So you watched The Conjuring 2? Or the...
No, I watched The Conjuring. But
his
after
video
I
in the-
watched The Nun.
Yeah, that's the opening of The Conjuring.
Oh, that's for the first. I thought it was in the second one.
that's the first
okay,
one.
sorry.
It was really, really enjoyable movie. I was scared because not a lot of the horror movies were scary. Some of them had some jump scares or creepy moments, but not most of them. I didn't feel like I was going to pee my pants, and I kind of thought I might pee my pants. I did not, but for a minute I was like,
How about that clap, though?
The clap was very scary. I was like, oh my God. My dog was worried because I kept going, oh my God. And he was just like, what are we, what? What's the worry? Yeah, some spooky shit. And I enjoyed it.
Cool. Last but not least.
Yeah, so I've been watching Narcos, finally.
Oh, I like Narcos.
Yeah, I didn't really know much about the Pablo Escobar story. So it was really cool getting a deep dive into it. I mean, before this, I'd seen Cliff Curtis in Blow, and Vinny Chase played him on Entourage. But beyond that, very thin knowledge I had, and it was really entertaining for 2 seasons. I'm a few episodes into the 3rd season, and they've kind of moved on to a bigger cartel, and it's just really scattered and all over the place.
That's too bad.
Yeah, so you can skip the 3rd season, but definitely the first 2 seasons is a good binge-worthy Netflix time.
Yeah.
So time to talk about The Nun.
No.
Nun. So The Nun came out later last year.
Came out on my birthday.
On
I
your
believe,
birthday, that's
September
right.
9th.
Yeah, that's right. And it is the second most profitable movie of the Conjuring franchise, which I still find fascinating. Not very well received critically, but fans really seem to like it though, which was interesting. The fan rating on Rotten Tomatoes, I think, was 4 out of 5 stars, and the tomato meter was like 20%. Interesting. Before we talk about it too much, though, we should do a 30-second breakdown. Breakdown. Elliot, are you prepared?
As much as I can ever be for something that I tried in the car right before I walked up to the house.
I don't think you'll ever be as prepared as you were for your, was it Teen Wolf? I'd say your Teen Wolf one was probably your best.
And that was my first one. So it's just been downhill,
You set the bar high.
downhill since then. Much like the movies I've had to watch.
Man, people are going to start to be able to tell, like, oh, Elliot's on that episode. They're talking about a bad movie.
Yeah. Totally skippable.
Yep.
Or someone is just only listening to your episodes.
Yeah, I'm like Paul Bettany in The Da Vinci Code. Like, I just flagellate myself all the time, and you assist in that.
Yes, I was about to say I apologize, but I don't. I enjoy this. All right, so 30 seconds for The Nun. Here we go.
A trio of miracle seekers, including a priest, a nun, and a guy named Frenchie, investigate the mysterious death of another nun. But it turns out this nun killed herself as a sacrifice to prevent this evil ghost nun from getting out into the world. So the trio wander around this haunted house location and deal with a bunch of jump scares until finally the nun in the trio defeats the evil ghost nun by spitting the blood of Jesus Christ into the ghost nun's face, and she screams and dies forever until the Conjuring movie that came out a couple years before this one.
You failed on time, but it was so entertaining. I just couldn't stop you. Spits
delightful.
blood of Christ into the ghost nun's face.
blood.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens in the movie.
Yep.
God.
Just like the movie, I failed.
Yeah, well done.
You walk around this haunted house-like place.
I couldn't remember if it was an abbey or
There's
a
an abbey.
convent,
There's an abbey.
a diocese.
No, there's an abbey.
All these.
Abbey.
That's why there's
Abbey.
there's like the
Like
weird
the
lacy
Downton
nun
Abbey.
thing. Yes,
Is
just-
Downton Abbey about nuns?
It's a prequel to the Nun.
There's like Russian nesting dolls. There are so many prequels to prequels.
It's prequels inside
It's a
of prequels.
crossover between Downton Abbey and The Conjuring.
Wow.
The funny thing
It's
is,
all
since
connected.
Since this is kind of a prequel to The Conjuring, is it a spin-off or a prequel?
Fuck. What?
Oh no, labels. Has everybody else seen the Conjuring movies? I know Chewie's seen all but the first Annabelle.
Yeah. which
I
you
just
told me
saw
was
that
bad.
first one.
Okay, you only saw Conjuring 1.
I've seen the first one and most of the second one.
I was gonna watch the others, but they cost money.
I understand. You can borrow 2. I own it on DVD.
Oh,
If you're interested in seeing it, you can borrow.
I was planning on it.
What have you seen?
Yeah, both Conjurings, both Annabelles, and this the Nun.
Oh,
So
there's
you're
two
up to date.
Annabelles?
There's
Yeah.
two. There's a horrible one and a pretty decent one.
Oh,
I really like
Comparatively speaking.
Yes, of
the
course.
or not the first Annabelle, the prequel Annabelle.
The sequel
one
Annabelle.
is actually really
the sequel
good.
prequel was
Sequel
actually I thought
prequel.
was and that
Oh,
was
good
done,
Christ.
that was done by the guy who's doing Shazam. So
Yeah.
The guy who did Lights Out.
yeah, he did Lights Out.
David F.
Annabelle.
Sandberg or
That's
something
right.
like
Yes,
that?
I couldn't remember. I knew David, and then I forgot the rest. But yeah, so he did Lights Out, then he did the Annabelle prequel, and now he got Shazam. So his
that
stars.
makes sense.
Well, James Wan liked his internet horror shorts.
Yeah.
So
Also,
there you go.
Lights Out was really good.
Lights Out was a blast. I mean, it wasn't a great movie, but it was better than this one.
Pretty good.
Here's the thing, like I
don't
enjoy
know.
the Conjuring universe. Like I just because the first movie out of the gate I thought was so strong that I'm kind of into what they do. Like even if I don't think they're great movies, I still just kind of like the characters and the world and just kind of like the general look of it. So they kind of have me already just kind of like baked in as an audience. If we hadn't just had a baby 3 months before, we definitely would have been there opening weekend for this
Yeah.
one. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like I'm into it. I like it. So for me to go like I like this franchise and I like this movie less than I liked the first Annabelle, I think is saying something because I think the first Annabelle is basically unwatchable garbage.
I don't think it's that bad.
I here's my biggest thing with this movie, and then we can kind of go from there. I think it's tremendously boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing in this movie.
I watched it for the first
Are
time.
we talking about the Nun or
The Nun.
Okay.
The Nun.
The Nun.
I watched it for the first time a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And I kind of just slept through it. It was one of those where you would watch the movie and then your eyes would get heavy, so you would pause it and then take like a 45-minute nap and then wake up and watch a little more and then get distracted by your phone and then doze off again. So I feel like this is the second time, but also kind of the first time I've seen it because I had barely any memory of it
Yeah,
from that first time.
we know from the very first scene that whatever is spooky is in the room. And is in that room that says, what is it? The death god ends
God-
here.
God ends
God,
here.
yeah, God ends.
In Latin, yeah.
So we all know whatever spooky is in that room. And so the whole rest of the movie, it's just us waiting for someone to go in that room. And so in the meantime, they just keep throwing spooky shit at you, but none of it really forwards the plot.
But they don't even throw spooky shit at you. They throw jump scares.
Yeah.
Like
and
a
I think
corpse
that's
drops from the ceiling.
jump scares. But like that's my thing. It's like or drop scares, if you will. But like there's something about the Conjuring movies and even the Annabelle prequel where just the atmosphere was creepy. Like just being in the house with just the family in the first Conjuring movie, even when nothing scary is happening, there's something creepy just about the house. Even the second Conjuring movie. I mean, it's James Wan versus I forget this guy's name. I mean, that's acclaimed horror movie director, not acclaimed horror movie director, but he.
That's his name on IMDb,
Yep.
not acclaimed horror.
Look it up. Prove me wrong.
Those are his bona
don't
fides.
look it up
Nod.
or prove me wrong.
Nod. NAHD. Nod. The nod.
Yeah, there you go. But that's the thing is like the world was always so engaging that even if I wasn't terribly into the story of the characters like I was with the first Annabelle, or if I was even with the second Conjuring movie where they just kind of went for CGI scares for some strange reason, I was still into it. And this one, they missed, because the Abbey should be scary. Like, we should feel unease the whole time they're there. And I just feel like, I don't know if it's budgetary or whatnot, but like the Abbey just didn't feel scary to me.
I think one of the reasons is that all three of our characters got separated and really didn't spend hardly any time together in this movie. And so there was no... They were just each having their own individual adventures that didn't really connect. So it's not like you were watching one character and then you realized some shit was happening to another character at the same time. Each of their little adventures was completely fucking separate. And it just didn't...
And the movie also didn't really care too much about its geography in a way that, like... You know, for something like The Shining, where it's like, that's the point of it. It's very purposeful that he turned too many turns around so the room shouldn't exist, blah, blah, blah. But this is like, okay, they're here at this graveyard now. Not somewhere on this property. They've passed through it. Okay. Like, you just, now we're here.
Yeah.
Now we're here because we have to be here for the next thing.
The geography doesn't make much sense. You don't really know where they are in the church at any given moment, or the Abbey.
She stays in the convent, and then where's the convent in relation
Where
to
is
the
that? Yeah.
Abbey?
They do show it in like one overhead shot, where like the building that they're in has lights on, and then the Abbey does not.
Where she sleeps with the priest, but that's separate from where the nuns sleep.
Exactly.
That's where the convent actually is, right? I found the entire design of this movie is interesting. I enjoyed it more because of that, I think, because they definitely had a idea of the atmosphere and the lighting and the spookiness they wanted to create. And that was great, except there are some questionable choices. Like, the entrance to the Abbey also looks like a burial, like a crypt almost, because it has two dead priest caskets there.
Yeah.
Catacombs is a better word for it, probably, which is a strange purpose for the entrance of an abbey, where even like it's supposed to be a old castle for some evil dude. Like, it's still like...
It's usually in the basement.
Yeah. Why is it at the entrance?
Yeah, welcome
and then
to
they have
home.
a throne next to them too.
A two-sided throne.
Two-sided throne. And the thing, like, some of the oddest things where I wonder if they had an elongated script where this made sense. Like when he got thrown into the grave, and then she gets him out of the grave, and then there's another casket underneath him with a dead person surrounded by books, and then they lingered on this one book with a lizard's eye on it for a moment, but that never really came back specifically.
No, that's the book he found the name in.
Yeah, but why was there a casket full of books?
But why was that there?
Yeah, and why would... So if this is how the demon's name is going to be revealed, why would the demon put him there?
But that's what I'm talking about, though, because we don't really get that is the book that he's getting the names out of. Like, he has several books that they show, they linger on that one, but then they don't establish that's the one he's reading.
I usually just
and he
assume,
learns Valak's name in that book. He's called the Defiler.
Yep.
It's a demon that was conjured. He learns all of this and does nothing with it. If he's supposed to be an exorcist, he's supposed to know, like in the earlier parts of The Conjuring that we learned, that once you learn the name of a demon, you have power over them, and he never uses it.
Yeah, and it's weird that that's clearly established. And not like it clearly established in a film that, like, oh, they're being made at the same time, so they didn't know. There's no bullshit allowed here. Like, James Wan's a producer on both of them, like, and he's got story by it. It's probably just because he created the character the nun. But it's a weird thing to miss, of like, oh, the main reason Patrick Wilson survives Conjuring 2, sorry for spoilers, it's because she knows the name.
So she can call the demon out, essentially. Yeah.
So
and wouldn't a priest know that?
You would assume so?
Yeah. I mean, he's an expert on this shit.
Yeah.
That's why he's there. Yeah.
And they establish it in the first scene with, like, we brought you in because blah, 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 blah. And they talked a bit. And, like, they made a point to establish it with words.
And there's other things that they, in the dialogue of this movie and in their choices of design and what they linger on, where Frenchie goes to a bar and they say cover up all the mirrors because if you don't cover up a mirror, the spirits of the dead can become ghosts. I think that's the line.
That never came back.
No, well, but then they have the mirrors in the church. She looks at mirrors a few times.
I kept expecting,
and they never connect that again. No. So then when she's like, the other nuns are here, there's no mirrors in that room. And they're like, what nuns? Instead of calling them ghosts, he calls them visions. I'm like, that's not how visions work. And yeah, this movie it feels very like they needed more notes to connect their ideas or something.
They need, and I don't want to take digs at the director because you never know with studio notes or whatnot what actually happened. But it felt like it just didn't have a really strong hand on the wheel. Like there's just so many like weird choices. And my thing that I kept bringing up while we were watching it is I think this movie needed to be campy. Like I think that the way this thing worked beyond just like, hey, let's just throw 1,000 jump scares on the screen, was if it was fun. And like I think that's kind of what I liked about the Conjuring so much was that it was fun. Like it was like that sort of Sam Raimi thing where he's like, you should be laughing while you're scared, and that's an enjoyable horror film, and that's what he did with Evil Dead and pretty much like Drag Me to Hell, a lot of his movies. And I feel like this one really should have taken those notes.
Yeah.
Because they're essentially attacked by deadites like 3 times. Like this could be a really fun movie. But they just kept like, no, keep it serious.
It just was also so predictable. Like, the nuns were dead the whole time, obviously. Because the first nun threw herself out the window to, like, save everyone because the creature needed a human host.
Honestly, the beginning of this movie is confusing from the get-go.
If there had still been nuns in the abbey, then they would all have been taken as hosts. So, obviously, they're dead. Like, her body was still hanging there. And no one, when they went into the abbey, no one mentioned the other nun who just went into the room. Like no one, there was one dead nun, and there were 2 dead nuns at the beginning of the movie, guys. So it was just really clear from the beginning. These nuns aren't really here, and so then you spend the whole movie just waiting for the reveal that the nuns aren't really there. And when it did come, it was like not as it was. Yeah,
and the movie assumes that you didn't know this either.
Yeah,
and it's like I knew this from the beginning.
Also, all the nuns are beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, the one nun is just entirely cloaked in darkness. Sitting in the
But she's
throne.
not a real nun.
What is she?
She's the demon. She's Valak messing with them, essentially.
Right, but they are talking to her as if she's a representative of the nunnery.
Yeah.
She's the abbess,
Yeah.
So, like,
the abbess is like a cardinal sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, how are you surprised by the turn that the abbess wasn't real? Because, like... Yeah, like...
Because nuns don't really wear veils like that.
No. And that's where I keep
going... again, he's a fucking priest. He would know that.
He's a priest who's an expert in weird shit. That's his whole job.
And he doesn't seem very expert to me.
No, he doesn't. He just sits around and reads books for it. He falls into a grave, and he falls completely for the trick that the demon's putting on him. And then he reads a bunch of books. And until the very last scene of the movie, that's pretty much all he does. It's
and it's so weird because like he brings up his backstory, and I was like, oh shit, they're gonna do the demon now knows and is gonna do this, and it was like predicted one after the other was correct. It was like check mark, check, because like now the kid will show up.
Yeah, like Chewie and I by the end of the movie we're both like, God, Daniel, give it a rest. We don't care about you. Like we just don't care.
We don't care at all.
We went to the movie called The Nun to see the nun. We didn't go to see Daniel. Like, get out of here, kid. I don't care if you're throwing up snakes.
But again, he's chasing Daniel out into the graveyard. The French-Canadian guy chases something.
The dead nun.
The dead nun out into the graveyard. Their stories didn't connect. I mean, I know they were at separate times, but like there was no effort to make their stories, their issues connect. There was no effort to what what's her face, the Farrah Farmiga's sister was going through. Tessa Farmiga, or I assume
Sister
Irene. Sister Irene, her ancestor, clearly. Also, she's psychic, but that really didn't come into play either. I mean,
she's just psychic soft.
Also, they're not related.
Oh, they're not?
No, because it takes place in the 50s. Conjuring takes place in the 70s. A lot of people thought they were the same person because they look so similar.
Why would you choose her sister if they're not supposed to be related?
They just wanted
no idea. Apparently, the director thought it would be a good misdirect. I read an interview with him. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
No, that's not a misdirect. That's a trick.
Yeah, like that's just like
I just assumed that they were related, that they were like cousins or something.
That's what everyone did when they walked out of it. But he's like, no, they're not related at all. Like I wanted people to think that was going to be the connection to the Conjuring.
They're two identical strangers.
Yeah, but they're just Frenchie is the connection to the Conjuring. So I wanted to catch people off guard with that.
You failed. The nun was the connection to the Conjuring.
That's just annoying.
Yeah, like that didn't work. And like, not only did that not work, it's a bad plan.
A misdirect is something you write into the script to make you think something, and then it's something else.
And
that's
then you reveal that it's something else. That's
it's not a casting choice.
Yeah.
Also, like it's not something that never like pays off.
Yeah.
Man, to the extent of her powers, all the power she has, she found a statue that pointed light.
Yeah.
Okay, and
this Mary
points the way.
I mean, it's really cute to have that little thing. That is one lead-in that they
Sure.
actually followed through with. But also, that statue looked like it was made out of stone. But she had a beam of light coming out of her finger.
Maybe there's a diamond in the finger.
That
Yeah,
reminded me
yes.
of the Aquaman thing when the statue leads the
Oh,
way.
yeah.
So like James Wan, big into statues, guiding his character.
And also, if the Vatican saw it fit to leave the blood of Christ at this abbey,
Right?
why is it not an official connect? Like, they mentioned that it's one of those convents that are not actually connected to the church. Like, it's its own entity.
Yes.
And, okay, so it's its own entity, which is odd because I don't know why the church would leave the blood of Christ there then.
Seems like a big
and
deal.
Why wouldn't the nuns keep that knowledge where they knew where it was? Because it sounded like at the beginning of the movie that they were trying to find the relic. They didn't know where it was. So, yeah, why would you have something so important and then hide it from yourself?
I mean, you drank the blood of wine at communion every week. So I don't know if it's legitimately blood or if it's just a little wine with food coloring.
Either way, that doesn't even matter. The question is, why would they have something so vastly important to the entirety of Catholicism, to Christianity in general, and then not tell anyone where it is?
Haven't you ever been to one of
nuns
those
do.
haunted houses where
No, the
they're like,
nuns
oh,
didn't know. That's the problem.
this bowl is eyes, but it's
The
really
one
just
nun did.
grapes? I mean, I think that's what it is.
She had the key, but I don't think she knew
She's
where
just
she was
moved on
going.
from you.
Oh, that's stupid.
That's what, like, when she goes into that room, like, I don't
Maybe
think...
they just got complacent because it had been hidden away for so long.
I don't know. Like, it just didn't connect for me.
Also-
there-
Why would you bring the key to the demon?
That's a great
Yeah.
point.
Why
Also,
the fuck is she the...
okay.
Why would the demon even want it?
Why would the demon not just take her? Because she was.
Why are we yelling?
It needs a
I don't know what
it
we're
needs a
talking
living
about.
host, and that nun walked into its lair. Why wouldn't it just take her right then and use her as a demon and get out of the convent? Also, what happened to the other nuns? Did it kill the other nuns? Did we ever get a resolution on
No.
that?
Nope.
Nope.
They just died
Well,
because they were
they
there.
have
Clear that these two
They
were
have
the
a
last
really
two.
strange, like, Silent Hill moment where they're all standing with bags on their heads for some reason.
That was weird.
It was.
Weird.
Nothing in this movie has any play. It's not. Nothing is motivated. Nothing. It's
And-
just a bunch
It's
of shit.
it's substance over or style over substance.
And the
Except,
style's
like,
not even.
There's not
Which
even a
is
style.
all more
The
reasons
style
why... like-
is not using lights.
Yeah. Except for
That
a
is
red
something
light every
that-
now and
he
then.
has a flashlight. That bothered me throughout the entire movie, actually. He has a flashlight, but he never takes it when he needs it.
Yeah, that is kind of dumb.
He has it in his bedroom at one point, and then he takes it outside, and then apparently it never
Maybe he
comes
left it in the
back again.
coffin.
Sure.
He's got a low
He
inventory
was a
space, so
very
he can't like.
important part
He
of
doesn't want to be over encumbered.
technology, but no, you're going to go with candles.
Yeah, like I think that's why I'll keep coming back to the. This is my least favorite out of the Conjuring universe, because even the first Annabelle movie it's bad, but everything makes sense. It's just bad choices. Whereas this one, it's just a smattering of like, this will scare people. It's like, are you even trying to tell a story here? Like, this is supposed to be
Nuns
the
are
bridge.
creepy.
But that's the thing is, I went to
Where-
Catholic school. Nuns aren't creepy. They're
Yeah,
just
but
kind of
that's just what the movie was telling.
Where is the ghost nun's ruler to smack people's knuckles? Like, that is a missed
That's far
opportunity.
more freaky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the ghost nun, she didn't do anything but float around and turn lights off.
What a toothless villain.
She
Like, just does
She
not-
definitely has
she
some teeth.
cut a
She
pentagram,
growls a lot. Goes,
an upside down pentagram in her back, except I don't think she really did. I think that was a vision or something.
yeah.
Turning
Who knows?
crosses upside down.
Yeah, she turns a lot of crosses upside down because that was cool in Conjuring too. I guess we'll do that here as well. But like, I think
That
that's
wasn't the scary. Oh, well, I didn't see Conjuring 2, but I was going to say, anytime the cross was turned upside down was not the scariest
Let's
thing that
do
was
it in
going
the
on.
title,
Conjuring.
too.
That was just an extra thing that was happening in the Conjuring, but the scary shit was other shit.
exactly. And that's the thing with Conjuring 2 was like, you're not afraid because the crosses are turning around. You're afraid for what's happening to that
The cross
girl
is a
right now.
sign that something
Exactly,
bad
yeah.
is happening. It's not the actual bad thing that's happening.
Yeah, I think that to your point earlier about how the Conjuring movies were so effective and this one just doesn't quicken the pulse at all, I feel like with the Conjuring movies, they're really based on like the family unit being perverted.
Yeah.
So you have parents and children. So it's something that's really relatable and you can connect with. And even though it's taking place decades in the past, you can still see recognizable relationships.
Yeah.
But as you were saying, Emily, these characters, they don't really form connections with each other. So they're just like archetypes that are thrown into this stew. And they don't really do anything aside from being the person who's going to get jump scared at.
Yeah. I thought in the beginning that Frenchie was going to fall in love with Irene. And that's great because, like, a dude falling in love with a nun, especially a dude who's a player and never fallen in love, then he finally falls in love with an unattainable woman, and then he has to save her, but he can never. It's like, an eternal. That would have been a great thing, but that just, then he just sort of leaves. And it's like,
Well, they don't really develop any actual connection.
But that's the problem. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Also,
like, that could have been something, and that would have added to this movie.
Another thing that I'm remembering that they didn't follow through on was they chose Sister Irene because she is familiar with the territory.
And she's like, I've never been here before.
Yeah, she's never been in Romania.
Yeah, did they actually choose her because of her force sensitivity? Because that seemed like her
but
only special quality.
I'm not sure if they were even knowledgeable about her slight psychic abilities, and
that never actually did anything.
So then they must have known that this was like some scenario where they needed a psychic. And they were talking about how they weren't holding any secrets to the other guy.
Either that or they dumped her here because they didn't like her. She was dangerous.
It's like it really didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, I liked when they introduced her and she's teaching Sunday school or whatever. And she's telling kids, like, look, you can still believe in dinosaurs even though they're not in the Bible. Koalas and pandas and shit aren't in the Bible either.
Yeah.
And you believe in those. So she's... the hip Sunday school teacher who knows that the Bible isn't the end-all, be-all.
And then
that never matters.
But,
it never matters.
But I think in terms of her arc, near the end of the movie, because at the beginning she hadn't taken her vows. And then near the end, like before the third act, she's like, Father Burke, I'm ready to take my vows.
Except the only reason she takes her vows is because she has to in order to defeat the bad guy.
So it's like she levels up. She becomes a Super Saiyan.
She doesn't take them out of any kind of character motivation.
Yeah,
she takes
it really
them because
doesn't
the plot
connect
calls
to
for
that
it.
at all.
Like, this is the strongest character development thread we have in the movie.
Also, I was not raised Catholic. Do you guys know, is it normal for a nun to just lay down face on the ground when she's taking her vows?
I don't know how nuns take their vows, and I went to Catholic school.
With a side of fries.
Because I thought that was odd.
It did look really
Well,
kind of patriarchal. Like this
Yeah.
old man, this man standing over her while
With
she
her
lays
face
face
on the
down
ground,
while he tells
yeah.
her that she's never going to love again.
Well, that
Well,
tracks
she
to
loves
Catholicism.
Jesus.
Yeah, she loves
That's
Jesus.
the whole point, that you are a bride of Christ.
But I think
It's
that's
weird, because I used to read things about nuns masturbating while thinking about Jesus. It's like, whoa.
It's weird.
It's weird. I mean, according
would've
to
been
all
more interesting
photos
in
of
this
him as
movie.
a white dude with long hair, which he was not, he's pretty hot usually.
But more about just her character development and choosing her vows, because I feel like there was something either in a draft of a script or maybe in this one and we just didn't come through where it was more important that she hadn't taken her vows yet, because as it stands in the movie, the only reason that it's important she hasn't taken her vows is so that she can take them later. It just felt like script padding.
Yeah.
Like what it
And so she could be wearing white while the nuns were wearing black.
Exactly.
That was a really cool shot. I'll give it to the
to
cinematographer, like panning over
there
them.
were a lot of great
Yeah.
shots in
there-
this movie.
But the problem is that okay, so why was it's for me? It's a very easy fix of she hasn't taken her vows. She's vulnerable to Valak.
Yeah.
That's it.
You make the rules, so make them
if
in
you're
a way that makes
you're
your
gonna
story
be making
work.
shit up the whole way through. I mean, they kind of, and I feel like that's why it was in the script at some point, because there's lines that kind of make you think that.
But even still, like, all the other nuns who took their vows were nothing against Valak. So, like, even if she had taken her vow, like, I never saw that it mattered that she took her vows, because
No, it didn't.
all it mattered was that blood of Christ that was like a weird Uncharted 2 trinket
That's
that
just
you
another
find.
thing in this movie that they established. They made it seem important, but then it didn't.
It's
That it
script padding.
wasn't.
It's just like they needed a little bit more time, and it's like that added nothing though.
Do we know? Did this movie come about because there was a nun at the end of that other movie, or did the nun get planted because they were making this movie?
The
Conjuring
nun
2.
is in Conjuring
That's what I
2.
mean.
So
Yeah.
Conjuring 2, the villain,
Which came first?
Which
is my
came
question.
first? Yeah, the villain was supposed to be this big hairy like goat monster thing, And then James Wan had a nightmare about a nun, and they went back and did reshoots and inserted the nun into Conjuring 2.
It's wonderful in Conjuring 2.
She was so popular in Conjuring 2, they went, we're going to make a movie out of it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So they just made a movie out of an image and didn't really have anything to go on.
Yeah, because she doesn't really do much in Conjuring 2. Like, she's more of a vessel for the demon Valak, and she just kind of stands in the background and is creepy as fuck.
And that also doesn't make any sense in regards to this movie, because at the end of the movie, the nun has gotten swallowed up, and the creature has moved on to Frenchie. So where did the nun in the Conjuring 2 come from?
It doesn't make any sense.
And that's where, like...
It seems more like the choice, like, image that Valak likes to show than anything else.
But for me, it's like, wouldn't this just made more sense then that Tessa Farmington and Vera Farming, I always forget their last name. Farmiga are the same person? Like, wouldn't that have worked then? Because, like, Valak kind of stayed alive in Frenchie, and then when she went to do the exorcism on Frenchie, Valak went, oh, shit, you're here. And it's like, oh.
And that's what would terrify her so much, because she'd be like, I thought I got rid of you.
Yeah, but since they didn't have any of the lines of, like, I've faced Valak before, then that doesn't work. So, like, I guess they're not the same person. So, like, then why'd you write them to be the same person?
And that's what was confusing, because, I didn't know that they weren't supposed to be related, so I assumed because I hadn't seen The Conjuring at this point, so when they showed the scenes from The Conjuring at the end, I was like, is that the nun? Like, did she leave being a nun? I was just really confused because they look so much alike that I thought that might be the same person. And then when I saw The Conjuring, I was like, oh, they're not the same person. They must just be related then. No, that didn't help things. Why would
it just doesn't work.
Confuse my brain.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that's kind of what it comes down to for this movie. It just doesn't work. Like,
It never works.
And, like, I'd rather watch Annabelle again. And Annabelle is stupid. Like, just stupid. But
Annabelle 2 is good.
Annabelle 2 is fun. Annabelle 1...
Should I skip the first one?
Yeah. Oh, you never need to see it.
I haven't seen the first one. I watched the second one.
You don't need it. The second one's fun. Like, it's not a great movie, but it's fun. And this one, I've said it before. I'll say it 1,000 times. If this one had just tried to be fun and just owned the fact that it is this campy movie about a spooky nun in a spooky castle, I would have enjoyed it. Like, they don't all need to have the same tone to be in the same universe. Look at the Marvel universe. Like, not all those movies have the exact same tone. You can tell they're part of the same universe, while they can have different senses of humor and style and everything. We can do that here, too. This doesn't need to match The Conjuring for us to know that it's a Conjuring film.
So I'm saying, if you had wrapped this story around some player dude from out of town who falls in love with a nun, but before she's going to take her vows, and then she's in danger, there you go. You have a story. But they didn't even try that. They didn't try anything. There was no relationship between these
They even hinted at a style similar to Raimi's when they finally get to the basement and see that like all the crosses in the hallway with the canted camera angles and the zoom, like the movement. It was like
all the smoke fog.
All the smoke fog. I was like, okay, this is what you really want to do. Make the rest of the movie that.
Yeah.
Also, something else they do in this movie that really bugs me in horror movies is that that like when she first goes down to that room and then the nun comes, like it's all the lights start to come out and like the creature's coming after her, and then that one nun grabs her and hides her or whatever. Like that happens a couple times in this movie, that lights go out or something chases her and then just stops. And I always hate when there's no explanation for why the creature stopped other than like, well, it's trying to creep you out, I guess. Like, what is the point of
They literally like stepped left once.
I also don't like how in that situation she kept stopping to look back. I'm like, dude, just keep running.
Fucking run.
Just what are you doing?
She is white though. White people do like to look at danger because we think we're immune to it.
I don't really think that's important to that. So. But the other thing in this movie that annoys me is they made it important in The Conjuring 2 and this one where they say Valak the Defiler, which to me suggests that this demon is supposed to defile your soul. It wants souls to like just like almost like a trickster sort of thing. Like you are supposed to be this pure thing, and then it should be twisting you and making you impure, make you defile you in some way. They never use that.
No.
It should have ended with like similar to Drag Me to Hell, where it's like, I got you, I finally got you. Oops, I screwed up. They should have done that. Like that would have been an interesting connection. Like, oh, he defiled. Like you didn't realize what had happened. You were him the whole time, or something stupid like that. But like, switch it to where he wins, or the demon wins.
And that's kind of what I expected from this movie, especially since Valak's in Conjuring 2. So I kind of was like, oh, this movie's going to end with Valak winning and getting out.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And that
Like it takes over Irene.
Yeah, like
that's what I thought.
That's what I was kind of hoping for. Like that's kind of the movie I want. Like I wanted like a Rogue One ending. Like, oh, no one made it out of there. Like I kind of like if we're gonna go full serious and bleak, then go full serious and bleak, and like have some guts. And this one, everyone made it out. Even Frenchie survives by the end of the opening scene of Conjuring. He's been exorcised. He's fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's the opening of that movie. Yeah, like
And
so.
the
Yeah, but
priest,
his life went to shit.
The
Yeah, well,
priest
sure,
gets
but-
bitten in the eye by a snake, and he gets thrown against a wall with the crunch sound, which suggests that he either broke his back or his neck. But then he still just gets up and he's fine.
In
Should've
the
got a-
Predator,
She was
that happened.
drowned.
In the Predator, everyone whose back was smashed against the wall died.
Yeah.
So clearly that happens.
Yeah. No, he just landed on some celery.
Predator is your reference for medical accuracy.
Yep. I mean, 2018.
Could they
Up
at least
to
not
date.
be able to walk?
Yeah, like
Oh, I hate that. That's another pet peeve when people get like stabbed in the leg or something, and then 2 minutes later they're walking
He did
around.
get stabbed with a cross, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the leg.
I hate that shit. I had been on a movie where like a character got stabbed in the leg, and then like the next day he's supposed to be walking, and I was like, should he have a limp? And they were like, no, he's
Or a-
fine. And I was like,
Do you at least have a bandage?
no.
All right, I think we should move into quotes if you have them. If you couldn't figure one out for this movie, I'm not going to
I
argue
have like
with
8
you.
quotes, but they're terrible, all of them.
I
I was just like, I guess that's a quote.
go for it. You had
I enjoyed when the priest was in the grave, and in that ridiculously long sequence, she finally digs him out of the grave, and then he's just been horribly traumatized and buried alive, and then there's a ghost who grabbed his face, and all these awful things have just happened, and then he looks back, and there's a body with a bunch of books in it, and his reaction to having been pulled out of near death is to go, perhaps those books can shine a light on it.
mine is also a priest line, and I chose it specifically because this is from the campy movie that I wish this movie was, and the line somehow made it through, and that's when the Frenchie's like, shouldn't we be praying right now? And the priest turns and goes, there's a time for prayer and a time for action. This feels like a time for action. I'm like, why isn't this the movie? This would have been a lot of fun.
I also thought that was a good like NRA line. Like,
Yeah.
can we not pray so that we can, for gun violence?
It should have been the priest from King of the Hill, the Mexican soap
Oh,
opera.
yeah.
Vaya con Dios.
Yeah.
Like that guy versus a ghost nun
I'm so into it.
could have
Yeah.
been something.
Yeah.
So-
All these are better movies.
Yeah.
So my line, which goes to what you were saying, the better, like the funnier movie that it could have been, is when they find the blood of Christ, and Father Burke is like, the blood of Jesus Christ, and Frenchie's like, holy shit, and Father Burke's like, the holiest, and I'm like,
See, that's campy.
yeah,
This movie.
that was the movie I wanted to see.
Yeah.
The other line that I thought was good and campy, though it really didn't have any motivation either.
Shocker.
Yeah, there's just no motivation in most of the things. When the nun has Frenchie and she goes, now a village won't have its idiot.
That's a good one. Yeah,
I didn't even know we established him as an idiot.
Yeah, I don't
We
think
didn't.
did.
Yeah.
that was never
Nothing
established.
was established.
No.
Not motivated at all.
Nothing was motivated.
Nope. Other quotes?
So I watched this movie right before I came here, and all these lines you're saying, you could be making them up for all I know. Like, nothing stuck with me at all. I mean, there was that line I liked in the beginning about koalas and pandas aren't in the Bible, and which is true. If you look at it, if you do the research, like there's a severe lack. I don't know. Maybe they went into Noah's Ark or something. I don't remember how descriptive that was.
Not very.
But yeah, I feel like not only did this movie give me concerns about the Conjuring franchise, but it also, cast doubt on this supposedly holy text.
Well, the
when
woman
clearly it's missing the animal kingdom.
the woman who used to be in charge of the Conjuring franchise has left.
She went over
went
to
to
Went to DC.
And it
yeah,
went
to
shit
DC to
without
help
her.
with the female gaze.
Yep. I like her. But
Yeah.
now I'm kind of worried about the rest of the Conjuring movies.
Yeah, because if it was this good with her.
Well, I like the other ones. I just didn't like this one. This one was the best.
I mean, I had fun watching it, though I can, like what we were doing, I can tear it to shreds. But
Yeah.
We savaged this
visually,
movie.
at least, like we were saying, there's a lot of great shots in the movie, and
I-
that can carry me through.
I didn't want to turn it off while we were watching it. I will never turn it on again, though.
I feel like we were nicer to The Predator than we were to this movie.
I think we were.
Yeah.
I like the bit where he almost gets shoveled in the face.
Yeah, that was good.
That
Reminded
was-
me of Mission Impossible.
Yeah, they did something like that in Narcos too with the drill.
Oh.
I was
Yeah.
thinking that when she was stabbing at the thing. I was like, wait, you're going to hurt him? Okay.
That was a pretty sharp
By the
shovel
way,
for being sitting
If
out,
he
sitting
was
out there.
actually supposed to be 6 feet down and she shoveled him out within 20 minutes, her body would be a wreck.
She's a superhero.
And also, like, her white. Was she wearing the white habit at that point?
Also, that shovel was super sharp.
Yeah,
like,
really sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really sharp.
Has everybody given the quote?
Yeah.
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 Review system is going to be disappointing horror movies.
Okay. Oh.
This should be the easiest ever because a lot of horror movies are very disappointing.
And I watched a bunch of them this week. What else was disappointing?
I'll go with the one that I made you watch after a
Oh.
long span of you going, I don't want to do that.
Winchester?
Winchester.
That fucking movie sucked.
Helen
You
Mirren?
know what? Again, a movie that, honestly could have been great. Taking the Winchester mansion, which, yes, that woman just kept building rooms for no foreseeable real reason, should be a fantastic setting for a horror film. And they did have a good cast, very good production design, good costumes, good almost everything except for the script. It could have been great.
Who's next? Disappointing horror.
I'll go.
Okay.
Blair Witch 2.
Oh, that movie's off.
Book of Shadows?
There was not. I mean, let's face it. The first movie was not that scary. It was the novelty of it, and then that very basically it had a punchline. That was the very end scene. So the first one wasn't all that scary, but it was new and interesting, and the hype certainly made it a movie worth watching. Blair Witch 2 was just like they couldn't recapture what was so great about the first one. It just was a movie.
They tried to add sexiness into it.
Yeah. So much like this movie, basing it on another movie that had a lot of hype and a lot of, stuff. And then they just, yeah.
I'll actually go off of that and do the new Blair Witch, the one that they tricked us. It's not the woods, it's Blair Witch.
Boo.
I didn't see that one.
Blair Witch is an alien.
Illogical mess, like this movie.
Oh, I hated that movie so much. That made, I think, my number one worst movie of the year when that came out. I fucking hate that movie. Mine, go figure, is a Friday the 13th movie. And I'm going with the 2009 remake of Friday the 13th because we're just coming down off of some really great Friday the 13th stuff. We had just gotten Jason X, which is amazing. It's horrible, but it's amazing. And then we got Freddy vs. Jason, which is amazing and not horrible. And like, all right, people are high up on this stuff again. We're going to do another one. And they remade Friday the 13th, and it was just not great. Like, they just kind of forgot everything, why we like Jason, what we like about camp. They completely left out Crystal Lake. And it just it was just kind of there. And it's like, I get what you're doing here, but Platinum Dunes, stay away from Friday the 13th. You don't know what you're doing.
Stay away from remaking the classic slasher films.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say the same thing about the Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah.
remake. Where
Well, I wouldn't because Chewie worked on it. I'd feel bad.
But
well,
I talk
my
about
wife
how bad
did
that
work
movie
on
was.
the previous movies, 1, 3, and 7 are really fun, entertaining movies, and then the remake just sucked all the fun out of it and really focused on child molestation.
Yep.
So,
Oh, yeah.
not the greatest way to go.
I think it's time to bring this episode to a close.
Thank God. Literally.
So quick round of plugs. Listen to Venture Bros every Monday, Venture Brothers podcast, and be sure to read our articles, which are still coming out Wednesdays and Fridays. John, anything to plug?
Yeah, I got a D&D show coming out soon. Trademark.
Do you have a name for it yet?
Yeah, it's called Demon Days. Yeah, so that's coming out in the near future. Sam from the Samwise podcast is also going to be on it, and a few other friends who have been guests on the show. It'll be cool.
I'm the announcer.
Yep.
I'm very excited about
I was
this
not
job.
asked to participate.
I told him I was
Pointedly.
participating.
You can dress
When
in
you
a
run
dark
the show, you
cloak
can kinda
with
say
a big
these things.
sword and just stand in the
stand
corner.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Emily's still over there. She looks really mad.
Speaking of which, you have an opening on such and such a day.
Chewie, what are you plugging?
Oh, well, keep watching Superstore. It feeds me, Brian, and our son. And Drunk History, I believe, should have 2 episodes or so out after for its new season after this.
I think 3 by now.
Yeah, that's on again. Watch that. I wasn't involved in this last season, but I still love everyone involved there.
Still a great show, and they
Yeah.
did some really fun things this season
They
from what I
did.
can see.
Yeah.
Every time I meet someone who talks about that show, I'll say, "Oh, I have a friend who works on the show," and then I say your name, and they all go, "CHEWIE!"
Oh,
Yeah.
I miss all of them.
Emily?
I'm still sewing. In case no one was wondering.
I'll gotta update the website.
Emily Blake sews on my Etsy. If you go to Etsy and look at Emily Blake shows, you can see my store. There's not a whole lot in it yet, but I'm adding things all the time. And coming really soon, as soon as we can get the whole package put together, is going to be a dogs podcast, which is movies with dogs in them. I gotta get a better version of this pitch because it takes too long to explain what this fucking podcast is. Movies where dogs as secondary characters are the focus of the episode. So we look at the movie from their perspective. And we're going to start with Best in Show and my friend Brian Scully. I don't know what we're going to be doing after that. I might be doing Gabriel, who was on here last week. We're going to be doing Back to the Future. And
You guys are going to do Peter Pan at some point, right?
Oh, yeah, I guess Peter Pan does have a dog.
It's
in it.
like,
I'll
I
add it
did
to my list.
a bad job.
Where are the kids?
Yeah.
Where are the
I
kids?
lost all the kids.
That's basically
I'm a bad nanny.
That's basically what the show is going to be. So
Oh, the kids are back. Hey, there's more of them now.
we're gonna go into some real in-depth analysis, but yes, basically.
I think you can do that with Peter Pan because, man, yeah, what you just said, Chewie, that would really wreck a dog. Be like, I lost the kids and then I got more. What is going on here?
Elliot, anything to plug?
Yeah, I'm just on Twitter at Elliot Campos, where I will be trying to get past Chewie's comment about the nuns masturbating to Jesus.
That's it.
Bye.